My name is John. This is my wife, Deanna. This is my son, Mark. Logan is somewhere else. We are going to try to condense the last 2.5 years of how God has worked in our lives into 10 to 15 minutes. We're going to go very quickly. So buckle up. Try to stay with us. We will be around after if you have any questions.
Okay, hi everybody. So just a recap of why we're up here. Logan was born on Saturday, June 10th, 2023, after a perfectly normal pregnancy and delivery. Sunday, June 11th, we went home for our first night as a family of 4. During that first night home, he completely stopped feeding and became limp and lethargic. So we rushed him to the peds emergency room in the morning on the 12th. After a couple of tests, he was admitted to the NICU with sepsis and bacterial meningitis, which is, for those of you who don't know, a life-threatening infection of the membranes covering the brain and the spinal cord.
On Thursday the 15th, we had kind of settled into a rhythm of having Logan in the NICU and Mark at home. That was our new life for the time being. Mark was 2.5 at the time, and he came down with a fever. Deanna ended up staying home with Mark, and I stayed with Wes and Diane so that I could be with Logan without fear of spreading whatever was causing Mark's fever. I didn't want the fear of spreading that to Logan or the other babies in the NICU.
After Mark's fever hadn't let up for at least 2 days, on Saturday, June 17th, not feeling an ounce of worry yet, my mom and I brought Mark to the rostern emergency around noon. Not knowing the cause of Logan's meningitis and wondering if maybe Mark had picked up something too, the ER doctor decided to do a full workup on him. His blood work came back super wonky, and they sent us to the children's emergency, the exact place I had been with my newborn 5 days earlier. Just after midnight, the doctor came in, and we were told Mark has leukemia. After Mark was diagnosed, we had no reason to leave the hospital anymore, so we moved what we needed to and made the Children's Hospital our home for the foreseeable future.
And then, just because there wasn't enough going on, Deanna started hemorrhaging 12 days postpartum on June 22nd and had surgery at City Hospital the next day. Saturday the 10th, Logan was born, and we had 2 perfectly healthy children. And then exactly a week later, on the 17th, we had 2 kids with 2 potentially fatal diseases. There was lots and ups and downs, but we finally were discharged from the hospital on July 21st of 23.
For the next 8 months or so, up until March of 2024, we were driving into the hospital nearly every week for chemo, blood work, feeding tube changes, lumbar punctures, or to pick up meds. And then for the next year and a bit, from March 3rd, 2024 to August 25th, 2025, so like just a couple weeks ago, Mark had chemo every day at home and monthly blood work and tube changes with occasional IV chemo, blood transfusions, or lumbar punctures at the cancer clinic. Mark rang the bell, but really it was a gong, on August 29th.
So the hospital has a program. It's called Beads of Courage. And it's just a way of tracking treatment of various forms. Logan has a Bead of Courage necklace. Mark has a Beads of Courage necklace. As I was putting these beads of just reflecting on the treatment of the day, I was reminded of the story of when Israel went into the promised land and they piled 12 stones as a monument to what God has done when they crossed the Jordan. Or the time when Samuel put up something called an Ebenezer, which is a stone of help, after God rescued the Israelites from the Philistines. So I call these beads of courage our stones. Each of these beads have some event or procedure behind them, and so we'll unveil Mark's bead necklace shortly, and the most thing you'll see is white. And every white bead is a day of chemo. And I missed a month or two, so it's shorter than it should be. And I've found it helpful to visualize what God has brought us through. And I wanted to share that with you, with Mark. So we're going to do that. Bear with us.
Oh no.
Keep on going, Mark.
Where is the string? No, stop moving.
Well, we'll figure that out later. Oh, okay.
Oh, found it.
Oh, here. So before it broke, it was about 50 feet-ish long, and I missed a month. And the first bit, we'll hang this up. We'll get Pepper to tie a knot. We'll hang this up, and the first bit is just, I tried to do a timeline. So the first bit is when we were admitted, and the rest is just while we were at home. It's for us, it was just a helpful visual of what God has brought us through, and we wanted to share that with you.
This is going to make me cry. In a crisis, most people wonder why. I've never played that game so far with our story, but I've played that game for other people's stories, ones that feel far more cruel and unfair than ours. But for our story, right from the beginning, I recognized that there was a purpose for our pain. I didn't know why. I didn't know why, and I didn't know what it was at the time, and I still don't know the bigger picture of why. But we knew that God was at work, even when we were in the worst of it. God was gracious enough to let us see little glimpses of that work. Why did Logan have to get sick? I don't know. But I do know that because he was sick, Mark was diagnosed super quick and was spared extra days of pain and extra days of trying to figure out what was wrong with our kid. Some families spend weeks searching for answers. Why did Mark have to get sick? I don't know. But I do know that because he was sick, I was already in the hospital at the time of my hemorrhage. And because I was already in the hospital, I was in a room hooked up to critical medication within minutes instead of bleeding out at home. Most likely, I would have been alone with both kids. There's a certain simplicity to living, as they call it, in survival mode. The world shrinks and your focus is narrow, undistracted by events outside your bubble. But at the same time, I've never been as bone-raggedly weary as I was in that first year. However, I learned firsthand what it meant for God to be my sustainer. Although, if I'm honest, I would have preferred a book lesson on that topic. I experienced what it was like to be so in the pits with nothing left to give of myself, and yet somehow there was always more when I needed it. I remember one night early on, Mark was sick and he had just thrown up, so we had put him in the tub, and he was crying and snot and tears were just mixing and pouring down his face. His tube was hanging down his back, and John was on the phone with a doctor, and Logan was crying, and it was just all awful. And I remember just feeling so done. When would all this pain and suffering end? A couple days later, I came across a passage in Revelation 21. It was talking about the New Jerusalem and how Jesus will come live with his people. In verse 4, it says, "He will wipe every tear from their eyes, and there will be no more death or sorrow or crying or pain. All these things are gone forever." I just keep reminding myself of that future. What happens here on earth, it isn't the end.
early on in Mark's treatment. I remember one time when the doctors and nurses came into Mark's room to care for Mark, but Mark was 2.5, and he didn't understand. He was scared, and he was crying out, and he was looking at me, his father, with a look like, "Why aren't you doing something about the fear and the pain that these people bring?" And all I could do was look back at him and say, not verbally, but with my heart, "It's okay. I'm here with you. I'm here. It's okay." And I remember thinking in that moment that I had received a glimpse of what it's into the heart of God, into God's thoughts towards us. In my own suffering, all I can do is cry out to God and trust him when he says that I am with you, and this is for your good. Mark only had a limited understanding of what was going on, and he had to trust me that even though it sucked, chemo sucks, but it's so that he can have life. The suffering is so that he can have life. My son needed to trust his father that what was happening for his own good, even if he didn't understand why or what. Just like how I need to trust God and his character, that even though this is probably the worst time of my life, hopefully that was the worst time of my life, but that because God is good, it is for my good.
The last 2.5 years have had some pretty awful parts to it. But because we love Jesus and believe that he died on a cross and came back to life 3 days later, we have hope that all of the suffering and all of the terrible things going on in the world right now, all of it is temporary and it all has a purpose.
A few last things that we must say. First, thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity. We only made it through the last 2.5 years because people like you have given generously to us. There's a whole network. So my parents are missionaries. Lots of people are watching this who have supported my parents for years, and their generosity, and yours kept us alive, especially when we were admitted. Donations to our GoFundMe and various charities kept us afloat. And we genuinely feel like you, our local church, you kept us alive. We had a hot meal most nights when we were in the hospital because many of you either sent us food or battled rush hour traffic to bring us something warm. I brought a blanket here. Elizabeth Wiebe, who I don't believe is here tonight, she made this blanket for Mark when he was a baby, but this was Mark's blanket in the hospital, and it's seen some stuff. But this was just for us a reminder that we're not doing this alone, and this blanket it means so much to us. Many blankets were sent for both of our boys, and we love them all. I have a display in the back of some of the stuff that kind of highlighted Mark's cancer treatment. All of the blankets for Logan and Mark that we could find are on that table. The moms group bought a very nice breast pump for Deanna when Logan was first admitted to NICU, which was so needed. And thank you so much for your generosity. Second, we know that many of you have suffered too. Our eyes have really been opened to the suffering of others, and I say that with humility, as if I can truly understand the suffering of others. But there's a whole world that we just did not know about until we were admitted to the hospital. Healthcare workers are like my heroes. One of the most powerful memories I have of Mark in the last 2.5 years is him playing the drums at home. and he's bald, and he's just given her, and he's singing a song called Evidence. And I'll read the chorus for you quickly. It goes like this, and the worship team can come on up while I read. It goes like this. I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life, all over my life. I see your promises and fulfillment all over my life, all over my life. Man, you have not lived until you've seen a cancer kid sing those words. And he doesn't understand them, and then I'm humbled as if I can truly understand those words. Yeah, and so we're actually going to sing that song next. And I trust that you, many of you who have suffered in various ways, that you'll be able to look back and see the evidence of God working in your life too. And maybe you don't have stones that fall apart on stage, but you have memorials of God working in your life. And so we want to sing together and worship God in light of that, of what he's brought us through together.
What a powerful story. What a powerful testimony. We're going to sing Evidence. It is a new song to our church, but I'm going to invite you to stand anyway. If you know it, sing it out. If not, let's concentrate on the words. It's got powerful words in this song. All throughout my history, your faithfulness has walked beside me. The winter storms made a way for spring. In every season, from where I'm standing, I see evidence of your goodness all over my life, all over my life. I see your promises in fulfillment all over my life, all over my life. Help me remember when I'm weak, when fear may come, but fear will leave.